Wake up at dawn, coffee's brewing slow. Check the news, let the headlines flow. Black and white candles light up my screen. Patience is my saddle, keep my focus keen. 3/8 traps my rope, I'm ready to ride. Price pulls back soft, just a dip in the tide. Wait for the break, let it clear that line. Trade above the high and the profit's mine.
Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for May 7th, 2025. So I'm running a little bit behind this morning, so I'm going to try and talk a little faster and move through a couple things a little bit quicker. First thing this morning, let's take a real quick look at what happened overnight. Asian markets were mostly higher overnight. The only market that was down was the Nikkei. It was slightly lower by 51 points, but pretty much everything else up last night as China talks about easing some policy and making motions that they are going to meet with the United States and talk about trade. If we take a look at Europe this morning, Europe is down across the board this morning. We have the DAX down 47 points, FTSE's down 27, and CAC is down 51 points. Just a little bit of concern over there. But here in the U.S., we're all kinds of positive here this morning as a result of the news that the U.S. and China will have trade talks, and that popped the futures last night after the bell, even after a round of earnings that, well, just wasn't all that great. So we're really hoping that the trade talks will be good. If we take a look at energy prices here this morning, well, we have oil this morning just a little bit higher. We've got oil futures right now up 50 cents a barrel at $59.60 a barrel. If we take a look at Brent prices, Brent is up just slightly, up at $62.31 a barrel. If we take a look at XLE on the producers in here, we're still trying to consolidate this move up here, maybe put in a little bit of higher low. It's worth keeping an eye on anyway. And natural gas, UNG, also trying to hold this little bit of higher low, might be worth paying attention to there on nat gas. If we take a look at bond prices here this morning, well, the 2-year bond at 3.81%, just a tiny bit higher than yesterday's close. Same with the 10-year at 4.31, and the 30-year bond also up just a tiny little bit, 4.80%. Of course, we're waiting for that big FOMC statement here this afternoon, and what will that do for us in the market? With the bond prices moving back up just slightly, well, we've got gold. Gold is moving back down here today after a really big day up, closing up substantially on the day. We have gold just a tiny little bit lower here this morning, down $25.20 an ounce, pulling back here just a little bit. And we've got silver futures that were also very strong yesterday in silver, reversing that move this morning, and silver futures at the moment down to 33 cents an ounce. Taking a look, we have copper just a little bit lower here this morning as well, down, well, right now it's down 11 cents on copper, and we've got platinum down $5 and palladium up $3.20 an ounce here this morning. If we take a quick look at those cryptos here this morning, well, Bitcoin is having a great morning here, really pushing to the upside. Right now up $2,030 a coin, and Ether is also up substantially, up $48 a coin. And we're pretty much green across the board on those cryptos, while yesterday it was just It was just kind of Bitcoin trying to hold on to some green. Everything else was a little bit lower. So, what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Wednesday edition, the FOMC edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a quick look at these index charts, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at these charts for what they are, not for what we would want them to be, and try to set that bias aside for that moment while we're trying to review positions of the diamonds or all the indexes. And when you take a look at the diamonds in here, this nice little resting pullback, I got to tell you, this if we can get some bullishness today out of this news on China and the FOMC, well, I see a possibility where we maybe have steepened that trend here just a little bit. And this would be a bullish pattern in here. This nice little resting pullback holding above the downtrend. If we can get that bullish action to push up, certainly a possibility here today, as long as we don't stumble on any of the economic data coming our way, and of course the FOMC, and just a massive amount of earnings. So that being said, you can see we're gapping up here this morning from yesterday. We're right in here on that line. If the bulls can continue to find inspiration here today, well, let's see if we can push on through and maybe retest some of these highs up here that we have been pumping in the chart. And if we can break through that, I'm going to suggest maybe coming up a little bit higher, right up into this area as a possibility, the next level, and then of course right on up into that area of price resistance in the chart, which is a significant area of price resistance. Now, if the bears were to have anything to say, maybe a retest of yesterday's low could be a possibility, and if those bears were to really get going, break that down, well, I see that possibility. We could come on back down, retest this upside trend, maybe even testing this trend here in the chart if those bears were to really get going. Technically in the charts, we're still challenged by the 50-day moving average, even with the gap up here this morning, challenged by the 50-day, wanting to try and pop through. And if we can do that, we've got this resistance up here to be paying attention to before we maybe stretch out for that 200-day moving average. Keeping in mind 50 is still well below that 200-day, and we've got a lot of headwinds ahead of us with slowing economic results and numbers, so kind of keep that in mind. If we take a look at the SPY getting a nice little pop up here again this morning, and if those bulls can continue to find that inspiration here on the day, then every reason to believe that we could break yesterday's high and start stretching up here toward this area of price resistance. And you can see if I pull that back, it goes back here quite a ways. We've got resistance all the way back over here at that level that we'll want to be paying attention to. If we can push up into there, and then of course beyond that point, well, we break to this new level up in here, and not quite as much price action resistance up there as we're dealing with at the moment. At the same time, we want to remember that we're still dealing with downtrend here in the SPY chart, and if the bears were to have anything to say here, pushing back down maybe to retest yesterday's low would be the likely outcome. If those bears have a little bit more to grab a hold of today, maybe we fill this gap, start pushing back down toward this area of price support in the chart. Remember, we do have this upside trend, and the new upside trend could possibly be right in here, just like on the diamonds. If we can get a really good bullish pop, maybe we've just increased our trajectory here. We are still a very overbought situation here in the market, however, so you'll want to keep that in mind. Now, as those bulls push, remember, we are holding that 50-day moving average, so that would be a classic bullish pattern. If this were to hold in here and push right on higher, maybe we're up there testing that 200-day moving average in the SPY. Pretty much the same with the QQQ. If you take a look at that QQQ, also very, very bullish. We've got that same situation here, that possible upside in here if those bulls can push on through. Maybe we're going to break through some of these resistance levels up here in the chart and then push on up to this next area of resistance. And if I pull that back, you're going to see that that's a fairly significant price resistance in the chart to be paying attention to. Now, if the bears have anything to say, well, once again, retest yesterday's low, that possibility that if we break on down below there, where we might start working our way back to some of these levels and maybe this upside trend in the chart. So watch that carefully today. Our moving averages in here, we've already made an attempt at the 200-day moving average and back away from there, stuck between that 50 and 200. We'll have to watch that pretty closely. But here in the QQQ, we're actually getting a turn of some of the shorter term moving averages trying to come up and provide a little support right there in that area. So watch that closely on the Qs. Now, if we look at our Russell IWM, it's also setting in a nice little bullish pattern here, holding that upside trend. So if the bulls can follow through today, break back up through that resistance in the chart, then I think we have that opportunity to come back up here and retest that high of last week and see if we can start pushing through to some of these next levels in the chart above. If the bears, however, have anything to say and we were to push back down, maybe a break of yesterday's low, and that would raise a little bit of concern and possibly breaking that little upside trend in the chart. Now, looking at the moving averages here, there isn't anything about this that's bullish. We did get above our 50-day moving average, but keeping in mind, we're still well below our 500-day moving averages. And guys, if we just flip back through these charts, yes, we've got a short-term upside rally going that could be nothing more than a bear market rally. We've seen those before, but just kind of keeping in mind, overall, we are still quite bearish here in our indexes. However, if we can start getting some trade deal announcements, maybe that could change. There's an awful lot of hopium going on here in the market when you take a look at our economic figures. Now, after mentioning economic figures, let's take a look at our VIX here this morning. Our VIX eased off just a little bit here the last couple of days, and then yesterday we perked back up a little bit with a little bit of fear. I'm guessing they're going to take that away this morning, and the bulls could push this back down. Now the question is, can they push it down enough that we can break through that recent low here in the VIX, start coming back down to this longer term upside trend here in the chart. But it is a nice thing to see that some of that volatility is easing off here just a little bit. If the bears were to get anything to say in here today, then pushing back up toward this area around 28 looks like a logical area of price resistance in the chart. The support area in here is a very strong area of price support here as well. So kind of keep that in mind. We're stuck between these two ranges at the moment. Our T2122, this still gives me a significant concern in here because we're still so very elevated in the short term. And I understand it's all news driven on tariffs and those kind of things, but I think we have to come to grips with the idea that, yeah, there may be some trade talks coming from China, but just keep in mind that's not going to be easy. And I don't expect either side to roll over very quickly, and you could see some more fireworks on that to boot. So while we're really trying to get this enthusiasm and pump things up on earnings, we may be getting a little bit carried away here based on our economic numbers. That said, if the bulls have inspiration here today, then we did, with that pullback yesterday, open up a little bit of opportunity to push us back up in that bearish reversal zone. But if the bears have anything to say, just kind of keep in mind, and we've got a big downside opportunity if those bears find any reason to engage. So be really, really careful overbuying at this point. We are really stretched up here. You're going to have to watch that pretty closely. If the selling does start, it could move pretty quickly, and we've got some big point moves that could be possible. Now, if the T2108 in here, looking at that, we were turned down yesterday. We had been up here testing that 50-day, or not 50-day, but 50% area of the percentage of stocks above their 40-day moving average. And we did break out of this downtrending area here in the chart. But pulling back yesterday raised a little bit of concern, but there was no panic in it at all. So if those bulls can continue to find that inspiration, let's look for a retest of that area here and then see if we can pop on through that and break above, get a little bit more than 50% of the stocks above their 40-day. Could help a lot in that sentiment of the market, relieving some of that pressure. If the bears have anything to say, well, we've got a good area of price support in here that could hold us if we were to push back. So kind of keep an eye on that. Right now we've got to definitely give that to the bulls, even though we're really extended in that short term. If we take a look at T2107, same thing is true, but unfortunately the percentage of stocks above the 200-day, what we're seeing with T2108 is a lot of stocks are above their 40-day moving average, about half the stocks back above their 40-day moving average, but we're still, the majority of stocks, 75% of the stocks, are still below their 200-day moving average. So it's not a bullish condition here in the market just yet. It is hopeful, and that's why I'm calling it is a bear rally to the upside here until we can really prove that we can hold some support levels with once we get a pullback here in the market. That's going to be the test. The wild stretch to the upside is just one part of the move. We need, after that wild stretch to the upside, proof that we can hold something, that we can pull back and hold, and we don't just collapse all the way back. So watch that carefully here. On T2107, also a little bit lower, pushing up about 25% of the stocks above their 200-day. Maybe we can stretch that up here today, get up there around the 30%, try to break out of this downtrend in here. Certainly a possibility, maybe even pushing a little bit higher up here into the mid-30s. If the bears have anything to say, well, we've created some modest areas of price support in here, particularly down there around 20% if the bears were to get going. And our T2101 here, well, our breadth yesterday as we were moving around was still going down. We haven't been getting great breadth in the market. Now we may really pick up on some of those corporate buybacks as we kind of get past a lot of these earnings, and that might help that bullish breadth, but watch that carefully. We just haven't been seeing a lot of breadth moving with these big point moves in the market, which opens the door for substantial point whipsaws. You'll want to keep that in mind. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, we do have a few things that we want to be paying attention to, but to be honest, it's all about the FOMC here this afternoon. We're going to get mortgage applications here this morning. Don't see that those are in yet. We'll want to well, wait a second, maybe they are. Yeah, this is all of these are an improvement over last time. So 11%, 11.1, 11.1. So big improvements there on those mortgage apps. We've got petroleum status numbers that will be here today. That obviously could be very critical to these oil prices maybe sustaining. Keep an eye on these. Our crude numbers have been pretty weak. This is the prior numbers, so watch that carefully. If we were to take a look at the rest of the day, we've got a 4-month bill auction that we'll get through, and then it's going to be all about Jerome Powell, the Fed announcement, and the Fed press conference. Expect some volatility. Remember, by and large, no one is expecting the Fed to do anything, and that could be, I don't know how the market's going to react to that. It could be really interesting. So keep a close eye on what he has to say here at his press conference, likely going to be the most important part of that FOMC today. Consumer credit, and as you look forward into Thursday, not a terrible day on Thursday. We've had so many really big announcements the last several weeks, but all we've got is the jobless claims, which of course is market moving, productivity and costs, wholesale inventories, natural gas report, some bond auctions, and a Fed balance sheet here at the end of the day. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar. My goodness, it's a busy one. All I can do is kind of have you pause the video and take a screenshot. We've got a very, very busy morning of earnings reports, and this afternoon it is a whopper of a day. Tomorrow is also going to be a very big day of earnings, so keep that in mind. So keep an eye. There's no way I can cover all these here this morning. There's no way. So grab that screenshot and we'll go from there. Let's take a look. Slide this out of the way. I did see Disney reporting this morning, and they surprised. They beat on the top and bottom line. That was not expected, an increase in streaming. So a nice little pop there in Disney coming up here this morning. But we've got things like Barrick Gold will be reporting today. Keep an eye on that. Things like DK will be in there reporting. BAND will be reporting. MIDD, ODP in there today. PAYO this morning. So a lot of reports to be paying attention to here today. And then after the bell, we don't have that giant techie report in here after the bell to be paying attention to. We did get AMD after the bell yesterday. It popped, had a pretty good move. Conference call happened. It faded back. You can see AMD is just kind of hanging in there. So we're still getting that just enough a mix of data to have that uncertainty coming into the market. So watch those closely as we report all of these earnings. Could create some volatility. So how about we take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that favor, this is the first time you've seen these videos, click that subscribe button on YouTube. Also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, do me that favor and click that thumbs up button. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to do that. I truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up, and keep in mind they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. Do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in this market. I'm still expecting some big point swings possible. So be prepared for that. Have a plan to protect your capital. First off, let's take a look at, well, something I'm holding, and I've got a little bit of a bias on it, and that would be AT&T. Now, yesterday, we saw utilities. In fact, the biggest performing sector of the market yesterday was utilities, and that should tell us something. Where we've got a little bit of concern in the market. We get that one news report that China wants to talk to the U.S., and we got all jittery about it, gapping up this morning. So you'll want to keep that in mind if for some reason we get another headline that's not, well, we're going to do it, but we're going to do this first or whatever, we could immediately reverse that as well. So kind of keep that in mind. We're trading an awful lot on emotion in a very extended condition where these old, boring defensive sector stocks are doing really well. So AT&T, made a nice little pop here yesterday, trying to stretch on up. If I look at this on a weekly, that's exactly the chart that I want to be holding. So I'm a little biased on this. Kind of keep that in mind. I wouldn't necessarily say this would be something I'd want to buy right here. Not saying that, but still looking good. And the whole idea on this is the theme of what's going on in some of these defensive sector stocks. Altria looking very good, continuing to extend to the upside, breaking out of resistance. I think any rest or pullback sets up an opportunity there in Altria. We saw Philip Morris continuing to stretch to the upside, looking really good. We continue to see things like Kroger pushing to the upside, things like Go Grocery in here, Grocery Outlet, reported earnings that weren't all that great, but it really didn't fall much. I think it's still potentially setting up in there. And there's a lot of those defensive sector stocks doing just that kind of thing. We continue to see things in that gold sector pretty darn strong when we look at stocks like KGC, those gold miners. Good pop yesterday, nice little W double bottom formation in there. That may still find that way to stretch on higher. Newmont continuing to look good, breaking this little pullback here, pushing to the upside. Any rest or pullback in here now, I think, sets up that opportunity to resume the upside trend. Things like Walmart in the defensive sector continuing to stretch up, heading into its earnings report, continuing to push to the upside. Costco also in that defensive sector, continuing to show bullishness. Nice little resting pattern in here could show that next opportunity to the upside. I would keep an eye on that. When we take a look at another area of the market, RBLX, this has been really, really strong. Now this is going to report today, so be really careful with that. But as you can see, moving in a beautiful upside trend, setting up in here like the way this could be setting up. I would really pay attention to that. Take a look at BTU, another one that I have a bit of a bias on. Holding BTU, really nice stretch up out of this bottom. You guys know I've been talking about it here. Any rest or pullback would set up an opportunity, and just as a heads up, yesterday I did sell 17 calls against it to hedge it for a little resting pullback in here after breaking this resistance here in the chart. But watch that carefully here on BTU starting to come around. Things like CCJ had a really good day yesterday, pushing up. I've been talking about that. CCJ, UEC, all of these uranium potential plays had a pretty good day yesterday, worth paying attention to. So keep an eye on those. There are a ton of stocks that could be setting up potential entry points. Take a look at Texas Instruments. Nice little rally here in Texas Instruments, holding in this pattern right here for some support. Might want to watch that. Take a look at Lunar. Lunar is trying to come up out of this bottom. Nice little rising pattern, breaking through some resistance here. I love the way we're just resting and stepping and rest, step and rest and step and rest. Keep an eye on charts like that starting to come back around. Take a look at Boeing. Now I have a little bias here again because I am holding Boeing, and Boeing continuing to press this resistance here to the upside. I honestly think it needs a little rest, maybe a little bit of pullback. This is a massive area of price resistance in the chart, but with the bullishness that we're showing this morning, maybe we have enough push that we pop that out. Worth keeping an eye on Boeing. I can't whoops, there we go. I can't quite quantify what's making some of these big equipment movers move when we're seeing economic numbers like we are. But when you see John Deere here, nice break, resting back. I think John Deere could be setting up. CMI had a good earnings report, trying to break back through that downtrend. I think there may be some opportunities there as well. So with that, everyone, I'm running out of time and I need to get this video out. I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for the kind support to the channel. We'd love to see you over in the Right Way Options trading room. Jump to run on over to the Hit and Run Candlesticks website. You can take a $7 trial for a full month of membership. Y'all take care, be safe, and I'll be seeing you first thing Thursday morning. Have a great day, everyone.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.